NWO Sports Podcast. Here's your host, Logan Bailey.
Welcome to the NWO Sports Podcast, Football Edition, brought to you by primary sponsor 3Chord. I'm your host, Logan Bailey, and joined today by Keith Brown, Tony Fairchild, and AJ Fairchild is actually gone today for his wedding. So we wish AJ good luck in the future, and he'll be back with us shortly. So he's got a lot of fun things to do.
We hope he's back at least.
Yeah. So
I'm leaving tomorrow, so I don't fly out till tomorrow. But
should be a good time for you guys. And
yeah.
Where's the wedding at?
Denver.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So. And believe it or not, the Broncos play at home Thursday night. I'm like, man, tickets are kind of expensive, but I'm just like, when will you ever have another chance to go to Mile High to watch a game?
That would be pretty cool. Yeah.
That's it.
Playing the Colts. I'd look to see if they were playing at home on Sunday, because I thought, well, I got nothing going on Sunday. We don't fly out till Monday. And looked, and they actually have the Thursday night game. I'm like, okay, that would be really cool now.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
All right. Well, let's go ahead. Let's look at how we did for last week, and it's week 8 now, but let's look at week 7 picks and how we did. And Bryce was far and wide the winner last week, going 17-1. He only missed one game, and that was the Paulding at Hicksville game, and that was the only one he got wrong. But I know we've been giving Bryce a hard time for his picks up to this point, but I mean, you look at it now, he's back in the ball game with all of us, and yes. I know Tony, Bryce is breathing down your neck right now. So.
I know. He went against we always talk about him going against the grain. And boy, when they pay out like he did this past week, he caught up, made up a bunch of ground.
Oh, it does. And Keith, for the first time all year, now has a tie with AJ with a record of 107-31. So Keith's got a little competition too with AJ.
Trying to let everybody close the gap a bit and make it a little more competitive.
Yeah, I mean, coming down the stretch here, I mean, things are getting close.
Yes.
Yeah.
Looking at third is myself with 102-36. I finally jumped Tony. So
yeah, I didn't do so well last week.
Tony is fourth now with a 101-37 record, and Bryce is fourth with a 99-39 record. So, I mean, you look at it across the board, we're all 72% or higher for picking games, and then I would say that's pretty good. And Keith and AJ both have 78% picking percentage, so excellent job by them.
Thank you.
Yeah, AJ was bragging it up. He's like, hey, I caught Keith. I finally caught Keith.
I wish AJ was here. I wanted to hear his comments because I know he'd probably be pretty excited that he finally tied for first. So.
Oh, yeah. He's like, man, I'm going to miss it. Because I be yelling at him. Like, I made it. I was like, yeah, I'll give you some kudos. You did a good job picking the games, which, he did. He really, the only games he missed was games we all missed other than Bryce. He missed the PH game, Lipstick game, and the Paulding game. It's good week.
Yeah, pretty good week for him. Yeah. And AJ finished 15-3. So, another good week.
Very good.
All right, let's go ahead. Let's look at some Week 7 game recaps, and we'll start it off with the NWO Sports Game of the Week from Week 7. Looking at Ayersville at Tenora, and Ayersville ended up winning with a score of 22-8. And the Pilots brought home the Victory Bell in the River rivalry for the first time since 2016. And we were talking, it's been quite a while for the Pilots, and that was the year Dawson Dales and Jacob Miller, and you had Ethan Schlochter. So, I mean, you had quite a bit of talent on the Ayersville team, and now Ayersville brought back the Victory Bell again. So, kind of had some different thoughts. And then even though I wasn't there, I still followed the game. But, man, what a nice addition Tyson Schlochter has been for the Pilots as a 6'6", 240-pound body. I mean, wow. And he contributed, and he had a huge touchdown reception just before half. So why don't you guys go ahead and tell me a little bit about what you saw about the Pilots and Rams from Friday night.
Go ahead, Keith.
Boy, it just seems like there was a slew of points in like a 6-minute span, and then outside of that, it was just basically the teams were trading punches up and down the field, it seemed like. Only second half score was I think Honstein actually picked off Graziani for a pick 6, and Sonora got down close a couple times late fourth, but they were denied. But overall, looking at the game, Sonora had a 3-0 lead midway through the second quarter. Gavin Eckert was hurt. Went out, which sounds like Gavin's going to miss the rest of the season, unfortunately for him. Graziani came in to replace him. Gavin's presence, as far as a leader, was definitely missed on defense, I think, Friday night. Once he went out, that first touchdown to Delano was right down the seam, which Gavin would have been there. Right. Whether or not, you don't know, but you assume he would have made a little bit of difference. So Ayersville took a 7-3 lead. Then the Sonora offense, which we haven't seen hardly ever, with probably a minute and a half to go, is trying to push the ball down the field. And Ray Wolfram with a heck of an interception, I think about the 50-yard line right in front of the Tenor bench. Ayersville, within 4 plays, another pass down the seam there. Yeah. Schlachter caught a pass, 17 yards, I believe.
Yeah, almost the exact same throw, really.
Yeah, they went for 2 on both occasions, and they had it just like that. It was 16-3. Still, 45 seconds to go in the half, and Tenor pushed again, the ball down the field. Graziani found Brandon Edwards down about, the 7-yard line. So Tenor had first and goal from the 7 with, I think they had at least 2 timeouts left, probably 25 seconds to go or so, and we just couldn't put the ball in, had to settle for a field goal. So we went in the half trailing 16-3. And like we said, second half was just trading punches outside of that pick 6 for Honstein. But honestly, Tenora, for missing the personnel that they were on defense, played the Pilots, I mean, in my opinion, played them very well outside of those 2 big plays, which, like I said, Gavin Eckert, whether or not he would have made a difference, he would have liked to think that he would. But for all the changes that happened within just like the snap of a finger last week, the Tenora defense stepped up, and I thought played Ayersville pretty tough, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. I do agree with you, Keith, that just shy of a few big plays, like you said, the pick 6 and 2 big seam routes, just for touchdowns. Other than that, I mean, when I picked Tenor last week, the first thing I thought was they got to shut down the run, and that's why I picked Tenor, because I figured if we shut down the run and we make Honstein throw the ball, which we ended up picking him off too.
Yes, Graziani,
we make him throw the ball. Yeah, if we make him throw the ball, maybe we can get some picks and make him make a mistake, which we were. Right. But I agree with Keith when Eckert went down with the shoulder injury, I believe it broke his collarbone. That just seemed like, and on the first play they scored on him, he could have walked to the end zone. He was so wide open, but I think they, kind of rotated coverages, and I don't think didn't think it was communicated, and he was just wide open. So, if you have your senior out there communicating, I think it changes that a little bit. But, talking about the elephant in the room with everything that went on with Tenor last week, and them guys coming out and, playing literally with not even really a day of practice, guys, because that all kind of went down on Wednesday. So Thursdays, they're kind of walk-through day. Yeah. We talked about this a little bit Friday night during the game a little bit with this. Those younger guys having to step up. The varsity game, it's a lot faster. It's a faster paced game, and some of those sophomores getting in there, getting their feet wet with really no practice with the first team O.
True,
I mean, same with Graziani. He doesn't take any snaps with the first team O. I mean, Eckert was doing it all. Yep. So then Eckert goes down, and then you're immediately thrust into here you go, with not having any snaps. So, I think had that, give him another week. And I mean, the defense I thought played fantastic, like Keith said, considering all the hoopla that was going on and getting thrown in there with no practice time really, and saying, hey, you're playing Friday night, right? Kind of. But yeah, the defense played great, and but hats off to Ayersville. They played great. Honstein did a good job with the pick 6, and but I really thought with Tenora, if you would have told me that Tenora would have held, Ayersville to less than 100 yards rushing, or right around 100 yards rushing.
They had 43 yards rushing on 31 attempts
total. So if
Yeah.
you just told me they held them for less than 50 yards rushing total, I just said we would have won that game hands down. Yep. Graziani's got some learning to do. He forced the ball a couple times, and the interception Keith talked about on the sideline, it was tipped, and Wolfram made a great job of keeping his feet in bounds, trying to make that catch, and he did. But Graziani kind of forced the ball a couple times. I think there was some open receivers. He was just getting pressured a little bit, and was thrown a little soon. So give him some time. Yep. They're going to be fine.
Yeah, and Tony, you made a good point about stopping the rushing attack. I mean, Keith gave the team total, but I mean, looking at it, Owen Berner only had 40 rushing yards, and Blake Honstein only had 15 rushing yards. And I mean, if you would have said that, I would have said you're crazy, because those two themselves typically average probably 200 yards between the two of them easily, 200 plus. So I thought that was a very good job by the Tenor defense. But again, at the end of the day, it's a matter of who could make the big play and put points on the board. And honestly, as good as Blake Honstein can be at quarterback, I think he's almost a better defensive back. I mean, he's just been an absolute ball hawk, especially with that pick 6 against Sonora, and he's got 4 interceptions on the year. So he's been doing an excellent job back there, and he makes it hard for the opposing team's quarterback.
Yeah, Honstein played great. I thought he did a good job on the offensive side too, as far as conducting the offense and running, throwing the ball, and because they did have some big passes, some big plays. But yeah, it's like you said, whoever made the big plays, and we talked about it before. Tenora's offense, and with Eckert getting hurt, it just sputter, and if you can't score points, you can't win ball games, and we just couldn't put any points on the board.
Yeah, and that's been the story the whole year for Tenora. I mean, is their offense, and just still trying to figure that thing out. But I had a couple other talking points too here, and I was looking Abe Delano, wide receiver for Ayersville. I mean, I think he continues to verify himself as one of the top receivers in the area. I mean, he had another nice game with 3 receptions for 77 receiving yards and a receiving touchdown. I mean, and again, there wasn't all that many points in the game, and he came up big with those receptions. And the week before, I believe he went off at Hicksville too.
Yeah, had 174.
Yeah, on again like unlimited receptions. So I mean, when he gets the ball in his hands, he does big things. I mean, that's what you need for an offense. You need those guys out in space that can make big plays.
Yeah, I mean, Ayersville's. I guess we saw Friday night. They're not one dimensional. If they want to run, they can run. If like Tenora shut down the run, then they also have the option to pass. And who wouldn't like to hit that 6'6" tight end coming over the middle? I mean, you don't have to be pinpoint accurate.
No,
you just get it in the area, and he's going to bring it down. So
Schlachter's got good hands too. So
right.
When you look at that, that's like when you're talking like Gronk size right there. Right, 6'6", 240. That's
at the high school level. That's huge.
Yeah,
but in all, great game, and Tenora fought hard and just couldn't capitalize and get the ball in the end zone. And and Bishop had that first field goal that he missed, but he hit it well. I mean, I even called him like, that looks like it's good.
That's about 42, and he just missed
something like that. Yeah, just missed it. Come up just, it looks like it's going in. I mean, he kicked it real high, and I mean, it was just perfect, and then it come down, and it just kind of fell short. But good kick. Yep. And but again, just Tenora's got to get the ball in the end zone.
All right, let's go ahead. Let's move on to the next game here. Defiance at Lima Bath, and Defiance ended up coming away with another win. And man, are they doing well right now? They won that game 35-0 and had a shutout against Lima Bath, and they held Lima Bath to just 172 yards on offense and 31 passing yards. So I mean, that defense has been locked down, and they've got some pretty good offensive players too. I mean, running back Brogan Castillo, 112 rushing yards, 1 rushing touchdown. Quarterback Brez Zipfel, and Keith and I talked off air again, but man, is he just consistent week after week after week. And I mean, we said it too. He's going to go out there every game. He's going to throw about 70-80% completion percentage, 200 passing yards, and a couple passing touchdowns. And what does he do? He does it again. He throws for 158 and 2 passing touchdowns. So I mean, he's just so predictable. Like in a sense, I'm not saying that's bad, but I mean, consistent.
You're right.
He's a player that's going to go out there and produce week after week. And
exactly.
I mean, you get throw in some other good wide receivers, and the senior Brian Phillips stepped up, 4 receptions, 67 receiving yards, and a receiving touchdown. And I know even though Craig Nichols didn't have that many rushing yards, he had an 89-yard kickoff return for a touchdown, and he also had 1 rushing touchdown on top of that. So again, even though he didn't contribute as much to the rushing attack, he's still helping the special teams. So what are your guys' thoughts on this game?
And Defiance continues to do what they've been doing, just plugging away and going out there and getting wins. And, the guys that we've been talking about, like you just mentioned, Brez Zipfel just continues to be, like you said, the little workhorse, going out there, the little engine that could, and just keeps plugging away, getting, doing what he needs to do and leading that team. So Defiance is on the little of a roll here. Just and we talked about their schedule a little bit last week, but, they definitely can come up with a few more wins.
Yeah, they won 4 straight, play Salina, then OG. So when we talked about the Week 10 matchup versus Wapakoneta, so yeah, if you're Defiance and Coach Cooper and the Defiance football fan, you haven't been out to see a game, get out there this week. I mean, Defiance has everything going in the right direction.
Yep. And there's athletes, I mean, all over the field. I mean, I know we don't credit everyone because obviously some positions, I wish we were able to get more defensive statistics too to kind of give those kids recognition, but sometimes it's just hard enough to get statistics. But again, their defense is playing very well right now, and we know Christian Camaso, he's just been doing amazing on defense as well at linebacker spot. I mean, he's always one of their leading tacklers, but hopefully he'll be back and healthy here. I know he's been battling with an injury in the last couple of weeks, and this is also the first season of 500 or better since 2013 for Defiance. So that's something to get excited about.
Yeah, in the last decade, that's number one. I guess program like Defiance, you find that hard to believe, but in the current times, like you said, Coach Cooper and the Dogs are just steamrolling ahead every week, looking for that Week 10 matchup versus Wapak. So.
Yeah, I think with Coach Cooper, they finally found something that's going to work for him, and he's getting those boys to believe, buy into the system and making it work.
It's one thing to have a system, and you're going to run it no matter what, even though you don't have the athletes. I think Coach Cooper is one of those coaches that he's just going to adapt and run whatever system that fits his kids. Yep, so
absolutely.
It's not going to force feed a system down the throat. No reason to run and shoot if you don't have the athletes for a run and shoot. So
yeah, we always joke around that with Ohio State. Right. Ohio State always does that read option offense. Well, it's not real hard to run a read option offense if the quarterback's never going to run the ball, right? So so you have to adapt, and so you know your quarterback's not going to run the ball, so then you don't run that. And that's Cooper's doing that with Defiance and just kind of adapting and making those kids successful. And that's the key of the game right there.
Yep.
All right, let's go ahead. Let's move on to the next game here. Napoleon at Springfield, and Napoleon came away with another win on the year. Won that game 27-6, and they had a little change at quarterback with sophomore Owen Espinoza getting the call, and he was 3 of 6 for 76 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns. So again, another quarterback that was efficient. And Andrew Williams is a name that we've brought up time and time again throughout this year. Running back for Napoleon, caught all 3 receptions from Espinoza for 76 receiving yards and added 110 rushing touchdowns, or 110 rushing yards. That would be pretty impressive if he had 110 rushing touchdowns for the game.
That score would be a little better than 27-6.
Yeah. So, that's rushing yards. So, thoughts on this game with the Napoleon Wildcats coming away with another win?
Napoleon plays in the NLL, and there's some tough teams there, and to see them come out, and put another win on the board, but for whatever reason they changed the quarterback thing.
I think Wolf was hurt. I think he had something wrong with his wrist, from my understanding.
Okay. Yeah, I know he's battled with some injuries in the past throughout the year, but that would make sense then.
But it seemed like it was the Andrew Williams show, catching the three passes and then running the ball. So
yeah, if you're a sophomore quarterback getting the emergency start there, it's kind of nice to know you have Andrew Williams behind you. That's a huge safety net.
Yep, absolutely.
And it's kind of unfortunate with Napoleon. Just seems to be playing better each week, and then your starting quarterback goes down, presumably for the rest of the season, and that's unfortunate. But again, like we said, you got Andrew Williams to fall back on. So let's see what Coach Schwery and the Cats can do the next 3 weeks.
And it's nice to see Napoleon get their 3rd win of the season. They're kind of getting on a roll here, which is nice to see, especially once they're in conference play too, and NLL is always tough. So that's what you need at this point. So hopefully they can rattle off a few more wins and maybe possibly make a playoff berth if they can.
I think they've won 3 out of 4, I believe.
I believe so.
I'd have to look at that, but it's probably close.
But let's go ahead. We'll move on to the next game. And, boy, was it a big one going into it. And Holgate ended up being a lot better than we expected going into that game. Holgate beat Stryker 51-14. So we were hyping it up last week, and it was a huge win for Holgate in the Northwest Ohio Sports Mega Bowl is what we're calling it. So what were you guys' thoughts on this matchup here?
I'll tell you, I was shocked, honestly. I really thought the stat that I looked at, you got in here that Holgate held Stryker at 116 yards total offense, and it just really, that was kind of, wow. The Stryker's been kind of burning it up, and to see Holgate hold them down, obviously, which is huge. Defense wins championships, what everybody says, right? But
yeah, we were shocked when we gave the score of this like a couple times before the half. Or just whoa, that's totally unexpected. But yeah, Holgate, like as Logan said in the intro there, gotta give them credit because we certainly didn't expect that margin of victory whatsoever, especially with some of the athletes that Stryker has. And,
right.
You see that score. It's wow, a very impressive win by Holgate. For sure.
I think that win for Holgate, that's definitely a statement win right there. I mean, Holgate's going out and they're showing that they're ready to compete this year in the Northern 8 Conference. And, they clinched a conference home playoff game with that win. So
that's awesome for them.
38-6 at half.
So big time for them.
That's a huge win. Yep.
And I guess, too, we were told by outside sources that this was already a rival game. But
oh, really?
and the reason it could not be moved to Saturday was because of Holgate's homecoming. So
gotcha. That
kind of cleared up some stuff for us because we were wondering, too, why they didn't have it on Saturday. But I guess that kind of all makes sense. But, again, what a win for Holgate. And Xavier McCord had another good game at quarterback for Holgate, and he continues to produce week after week. And Holgate, man, I mean, them beating Fort Wayne Crusaders the other week, I mean, they might have a chance at the title of the whole thing. So be curious to see how they do throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, McCord had 2 straight fantastic weeks, 241 yards.
Yeah.
So,
and they got another big game this week with Toledo Christian, so we'll see how they do. Let's go ahead. Let's move on to the next game here. Wauseon at Patrick Henry, and Wauseon came away with a win here, 38-13. And a stat I thought was kind of interesting was Patrick Henry was actually up 13-0 to start the game, and Wauseon ended up rattling off 38 consecutive points. And I thought, what a game. Again, Trey Parsons, quarterback for Wauseon, he has done such a nice job since he's entered in, and they kind of had a change of quarterbacks. But, again, he's continued to do his job and do it very well. And his receiving core, oh, my goodness, what a game from all 3 of them. Jude Armstrong, Tyson Rodriguez, Sam Smith. I mean, we've talked about those 3 throughout the year, and, again, they produced. And Wauseon came away with a big win. And what do you guys thoughts on this one?
Kudos, to Wauseon. I mean, they obviously saw something that wasn't happening with their offense. With McLeod as the quarterback, and I'm sorry, but I'm blanking on the coach's name over there.
Sean Moore.
Sean Moore. He obviously saw something that wasn't working and made that change and threw Trey Parsons in there, and man, he has been tearing it up, and it's trying to turn the season around a little bit for Wauseon. In my opinion, and when you throw for 300 yards, it just. I mean, you put your team on your back. Let's go, boys! He's been stepping up to the challenge, and it's kind of exciting to see. And I guess obviously they got down 13-0, and nobody panicked. And
not only did he throw for 300+ yards, he was 29 of 33, which I thought that stat stood out more than anything else. So
he's been very very efficient.
Keith, do you have any comments?
Yeah, no, like Tony said, that takes a lot of guts for Coach Moore to, set down McLeod and have a little talk with him and say, hey, sorry, but need to go in a little direction or different direction. And Patrick Henry, Wauseon's probably averaged 35 points a week since the change. Yeah. So very impressive. Coach Moore and Wauseon definitely playing, getting hot at the right time.
Actually, they have been 35, 33, and 38 in the last 3 games.
Awesome.
And I think, too, the big question mark here is going to be Patrick Henry going forward. I mean, they've had a couple of tough losses, and, I mean, they had their shots at the game. I mean, they were up 13-0 to start this game, and they had a comeback against Bryan, which they almost pulled it off. But, again, it's just like they haven't been able to get it done, and we know, again, they have some talent on their team. So
have the meat of their schedule, too. Yeah. I mean, that's just Wauseon last week, Liberty Center, Delta, Archibald.
Yeah, so. Liberty Center coming this week, then they're at Delta, and then back home with Archibald. So
wow, that's a tough way to the end conference play.
Yeah, that's a tough final. I mean, that's what we talked about, that the NWO all being tough, and you look at it, and they're beating each other up.
Yeah, it's
But yeah, congrats to Wauseon. I mean, like I said, they're playing great.
Yeah, just looking at briefly, Tony, you got Liberty Center 4-0, Archibald, Delta, Wauseon 3-1, and PH is 2-2, and they're like in the bottom third. PH is
It's just crazy to think about because all those teams are quality teams. And like we talked about too before entering conference play, that all these teams are going to get in here. They're going to beat each other up. So, I mean, I'm still surprised. I know Liberty Center is very good, but I'm surprised they haven't had one loss to this point. I mean, they've survived some pretty tough teams. So kudos to Liberty Center. I mean, they keep running away with it, and I think there's no looking back for them. So let's go ahead. Let's move on to the next game. Big first win of the season for the Hicksville Aces. Paulding was at Hicksville, and Hicksville ended up winning 34-15, and big win for Coach Lucas Smith there. And man, George Green, running back from Hicksville, went off, and he had 161 rushing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. And I mean, what a performance by him! And I mean, that honestly, 3 touchdowns, that's like almost single-handedly beating Paulding by himself. So. looking at some other stats from this game, Paulding had 4 turnovers in the game, and one was for a fumble return for a touchdown by Brody Balzer of Hicksville. And Hicksville's Brant Langham returned a kickoff for 77 yards and a touchdown. So, man, the troops were definitely rallied over there in Hicksville, and they got their act together, and they pulled off their first win. So what are your guys' thoughts about this game here?
Surprised.
Yeah,
I
very.
thought, we know Coach Smith over there is, he's a good coach and been there for a while, and obviously he knows how to win ball games. And, but it doesn't say, I was looking at the paper here, it doesn't say when that kickoff return for the score was.
It was
that early in the game?
It was, would have been their third touchdown.
Third touchdown.
For Hicksville. So,
stuff like that, the scoop and score and the kickoff returns, those things ignite teams, right? I mean, if you're looking for the spark to finally get a win and, to finally, to help your team get a win and, stuff like that is really what starts to get the ball rolling for you.
Yeah, it's kind of like Coach Smith took the first half against Ayersville and just reviewed that game film with them. And we're not even going to watch the second half because apparently Coach Mickey came out and just had the locker room speech of the season for the pilots. So Coach Smith was like, we're just going to watch the first half, boys. And once halftime comes, we're not watching this again. And kudos to the Aces, come out and just played lights out against Paulding.
And I like how you said it too, Keith. I mean, last week Hicksville, they were battling Ayersville in that first half.
8-0 at the half.
Yes, yep. And we know Ayersville. We got to see them firsthand. You guys did. Yep. I obviously was not there, but I kind of followed along. But still, we kind of saw a preview of what Hicksville's been cooking, and they are finally able to get it over the hump and get that first win. Yep. So a huge first win. I mean, you don't ever want to go a season without a single win. So you kind of got that monkey off your back at this point. So hopefully, maybe they can pull off another one here. So.
Yeah, you're kind of like you talk about the dog days of summer for baseball players. This is kind of like equivalent for the football player. Like if you're 0-6 or 0-7, you're counting down. Well, we got 3 more games. How many practices till the season's over? you look forward to the end of the season, and then when the end of the season comes, you got a week or 2 buffer period there, and you're like, man, I wish we still played.
Right.
You look forward to the end, but then again, you miss it when it's gone.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
So enjoy it while you can, fellas. Yeah. Doesn't last forever.
Let's move on to the next game. Salina at Ottawa Glandorf, and Salina was victorious 14-7. I know we didn't have much information about this game, but just wanted to touch on it. But all I had to say is, man, Ottawa Glandorf has had some tough luck because they have played teams so close throughout the season, but they just cannot get it done. I mean, we know that their record, I feel like, is not an accurate depiction of how that team and program is because, you look back at the schedule, they play a tough schedule. Eastwood, Wapakoneta, Elida, St. Mary's, Van Wert. Salina, they all have pretty good winning records. And if you look at all of them,
Defiance.
That's what I mean. And they just happen to lose some of those games by, a score, 2-score games.
Really outside of that St. Mary's game, I think they've been. The Van Wert game was probably 31-16, but it seemed closer as we were, giving our scores throughout the night. But it seemed like they're in every game. It's just trying to get over that hump.
Yeah.
So.
And I feel like if you're in the WBL this last half of the season, I would not want to play Ottawa Glandorf just because, they are very competitive, and I feel like a lot of teams may overlook OG almost Absolutely. To the point. You're getting to the last half of the season, and you're trying to look at some easier teams in the conference, but, you blink and OG will be right there. Right. So that's something I think teams need to be aware of, but you look too. Wapakoneta, they lost 7-14. Wapakoneta beat Van Wert, and I think that's just crazy. So, you guys have any other comments on this game? I just wanted to kind of review that because I think Ottawa Glandorf's still a competitive team, but it's just like they just can't get quite over the hump to get that win. So,
like you said, they're in every game, and it seems like you just can't get enough. That's not quite enough.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and we'll take a break to hear from our sponsors, and we'll be right back. 3Chord is a family-owned and operated business who offers the highest quality embroidery, screen printing, sign and promotional items to customers of Northwest Ohio at competitive prices. Locations in Archbold, Napoleon, and Bowling Green. Check them out at 3cord.com. That's THREECORD.com. For any of your auto body or collision needs, be sure to check out Bat & Stevens Body Shop, voted the #1 body shop in Northwest Ohio by Crescent News readers. Give them a call today at 419-497-3111 to schedule your free estimate. Check out Tenora Rams Live. Live events broadcast on YouTube and post-game results, articles, schedules, and more can all be found on TenoraRams.com. Feel free to look up their Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram pages as well. Jimenez Basketball Academy strives to create an atmosphere to cultivate basketball fundamentals in Northwest Ohio youth athletes, offering one-on-one sessions, group sessions, speed and agility training, and much more. Located in Pettisville, Ohio, call Coach Jesse today at 419-551-8105. We're back on the NWO Sports Podcast. Logan Bailey here with Keith Brown and Tony Fairchild. We're looking at Player of the Week from Week 7. So, wow, did we have some good performances and a lot of good performances from some running backs, too, this week. So, without further ado, I'll go ahead and I'll announce some of the players and their school and positions and what their stats revealed from last week. So, starting first, Delta running back Briar Knapp, 6 carries, 122 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. Hicksville running back George Green, 161 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. Holgate quarterback Xavier McCord, 8 of 10, 80% completion percentage, 241 passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns. He did have 1 interception, but he also had a rushing touchdown. Columbus Grove running back Trenton Barraza, 11 carries, 234 rushing yards. He averaged 21.2 yards a carry, and he had 2 rushing touchdowns. Eden quarterback Kyler Sapp was 14 of 18, 78%, 200 passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns. Liberty Center running back Matthew Orr, 5 carries, 235 rushing yards. He averaged 47 yards a carry and added 4 rushing touchdowns. So he literally scored on every single carry but 1. So that is very impressive. Liberty Center quarterback Zane Zider was 8 of 10, 80%, 107 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns, and a very efficient game from him. Wauseon quarterback Trey Parsons, wow, 27 of 31, 87% completion percentage. He had 307 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns. He did have 1 interception, but he also had 7 carries for 18 rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown. So a good performance by him to help Wauseon beat Patrick Henry. A couple other Wauseon guys. Wauseon wide receiver Jude Armstrong, 12 receptions, 144 receiving yards, and he had 1 receiving touchdown. And Wauseon linebacker Austin Kovar, 8.5 tackles, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss, and an interception. So he did it all on the defensive side of the ball. Antwerp wide receiver Parker Moore, 8 receptions, 137 receiving yards, 1 receiving touchdown. And Antwerp quarterback Carson Ultimus, 20 of 30, 67% completion percentage, 256 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown, 8 carries for 70 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, and he had 3 total touchdowns for the game. And I feel like with Carson Ultimus, he's always on this list. So that's someone that no matter what, every week, Carson Ultimus from Antwerp is always on the list. So let's go ahead and why don't you guys reveal some guys you were looking at for Player of the Week, and we'll go ahead and have some discussion.
For me, I mean, I'm looking at Trey Parsons had a heck of a game, 27 to 31. Now the paper has him at 29 to 33, so it doesn't really change nothing. But just a very efficient game. He's playing great since stepping in, and how do you? Matthew Orr, gee whiz. I touch the ball and score. Touch the ball, score. I mean, I guess if I'm walking away from that game, I'm going to be happy. I was the guy that tackled him and kept him from scoring, right?
Time, right.
He touched the ball 5 times and scored on 4 of them. So, wow, just an amazing performance there.
Keith, who were some players you were looking at?
For me, without touching on the ones that Tony already did, for a second straight week, Xavier McCord of Holgate, 8 of 10, 241. That's coming off the week before where he had that game-winning drive where I think he went 94 yards.
Yeah, it was like 90-plus yard drive.
So 8-man, shout out to Xavier McCord for Holgate. And again, Carson Ultimus, as you said, I think he's on here every week. Yeah. And big week coming up, showdown at Ayersville. So, but I can't go wrong with Matthew Orr. And they were playing Bryan, who was coming off that big win over PH.
Yeah, that's true too.
That's a very impressive performance by Matthew Orr at Liberty Center.
And a couple guys for me. I mean, I was looking at 3 running backs here. I mean, like I said, there was a ton of running backs this week. Yeah. You look at Delta running back Briar Knapp, 6 carries, 122 rushing yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. I mean, again, he's averaging so many yards a carry. Mm-hmm. And then you look at Hicksville running back George Green, 161 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, and helped Hicksville get their first win. I mean, look at how much that helped Hicksville. I mean, he basically outscored the whole Paulding team. So that was pretty impressive too. And then another running back, Trenton Barraza. I mean, he was averaging 21.2 yards a carry, 234 rushing yards. Again, I mean, these guys were just running all over the field this weekend.
Who would have thought that you would have ran 234 yards and averaged 21.2 yards a carry, and somebody did better?
Right. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
hard to believe.
So, I mean, those guys all stood out. But again, you look at Liberty Center, Matthew Orr, and we discussed, and wow, when you have 5 carries, 235 rushing yards, and 4 rushing touchdowns, that is very deserving of the NWO Sports Player of the Week for Week 7. And just to put that into consideration, he's literally he's running half the football field every time he touches the ball, which is crazy to think about.
And there's one, Logan, again, it's outside our coverage area, but Mason Oliver had 355 yards.
Wow, from Elmwood?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that is
rushing, 355 rushing yards?
Yep.
And how many carries?
Does not say. 36 carries.
Oh, wow. He's really carrying the rock.
Yeah, he's another one that's a workhorse. And
56-49 final there, I believe.
Yeah, and I think Elmwood came up just short to Eastwood, but those two teams, I mean, they're in Division 5, Region 18. So
so he ran for that, and they still lost?
Yeah.
Holy moly.
That would have been a good game to be at, that Elmwood-Eastwood game. But nonetheless, again, Matthew Orr, running back from Liberty Center, is our NWO Sports Player of the Week. So congratulations to him, and congratulations to all these other athletes making this list. I mean, again, like Tony said, like, who would have thought, I mean, if you rush for 200-plus yards, that you'd be getting beat out for Player of the Week by someone else. I mean, that's a heck of a performance. It's like you just can't win if you're the other kids. So. But anyways, congrats again to him. And the Player of the Week will receive a plaque sponsored by Bat and Stevens Body Shop at the end of the season. So, again, keep up the good work, guys. And hopefully you guys will make this list again. So let's go ahead and let's look at the power rankings for Week 8. So I'll go ahead and I'll reveal the power rankings here. And Tony and Keith will roast me. So let's go ahead and I'll break it down into some groups, and we'll have some discussion about where teams landed on the list this week and some rationale maybe behind it. So coming in at number 27, Fairview. Number 26, Hilltop. Number 25, Paulding. Number 24, Hicksville. Number 23, Swanton. Number 22, Montpelier. Number 21, Evergreen. Number 20, Wayne Trace. So thoughts on this group here, guys?
I think you've got it. I mean, Fairview hasn't won a game, and the rest of those guys are all kind of Hicksville jumping up a couple spots because they got their first win of the season, and I think it looks good. Unfortunately for Evergreen, and we talked about they started out the season looking good, and we had high expectations. But as soon as you flipped over their schedule, you look at their schedule and go, it's not going to look so good. So they've kind of taken it on the chin here a little bit as they're going into their league play. So I think that looks good.
Yeah, I agree with Tony. Wayne Trace, I mean, they're 2-5, probably a little better than 2-5, ranked 20th, but it looks pretty accurate.
All right, let's go ahead. Let's look at the next group here. 19, Ottawa Glandorf. 18, Crestview. 17, North Central. 16, Eden. Number 15, Lipsick. So thoughts on this group here?
North Central is the only one I see on there. They're climbing their way up, and they've been playing well. I think they can continue to move up if they get another win under the belt. I think they could take a big leap, in my opinion, ahead of some of those other teams.
I think the thing that's holding North Central back is by far their strength of schedule. I mean, they're 5-2, and they did get a good win against an undefeated. I'm trying to think the team from Michigan, Erie Mason team. But again, it's not like they play a lot of these local teams, so it's hard to compare. And again, we kind of talked to, and generally speaking, we believe. You have Ohio high school football here and Michigan football, maybe just a little bit below as far as I feel like some of the talent and teams. Okay. But again, it's like, I mean, it's hard to deny North Central. I mean, 5 wins, you got to start moving them up sometime here. Exactly. But it's like you can't move them up too far yet either. Yeah. So that's how I kind of came up with that spot. So you guys have any other comments here?
No, I'm hoping with North Central that they, since they started their program and now that maybe they can get into a local league, maybe the Buckeye Border Conference or something.
Yeah, I think that you hit it on the head. I think that's probably suits them perfectly.
Yeah. And that would be neat. Then you get a little better look of, they're playing the same teams that we see, we talk about all the time. So versus an Erie Mason that we don't know
nothing about. They're still hanging tough, though. They're still 10th in the playoff standings. So
it's good, which is fabulous for a startup team. I mean, it's just unheard of. I think
that's amazing.
Well, I was thinking too, because I don't know, because Buckeye Border Conference doesn't necessarily have a football league,
correct?
But they do. But Montpelier and Eden play in the TAC, the Toledo Area Athletic Conference. So I think that would probably be where they would fit in best too. Yeah. But again, it's like you got to have room in these conferences for another team to join. Yep. So I think that's the big question. Let's go ahead. Let's break down the next group here. Coming in number 14, Napoleon. Number 13, Edgerton. Number 12, Patrick Henry. Number 11, Tenora. So thoughts in this group here, guys?
The only thing I think maybe Edgerton should be up a little higher. Their only loss was to Ayersville, and Ayersville has been playing tough and, been whipping on people. So I think maybe Edgerton with their only loss, maybe they should be a little higher than 13th.
Yeah, for me, Sonora obviously probably, with the loss of Gavin, the leader on offense and defense, probably Graziani coming as a quarterback, plus a couple of other kids we missing, probably drop a little lower next week, possibly just because of you can only play with the kids that are available.
True.
But.
That's what I kind of looked at too. Right. And I looked at too. I feel like Tenora, it's kind of a hard place to put them right now because, you look at how they played against Ayersville and you compare it to Edgerton, and actually they lost, I believe, a little bit less to Ayersville than what Edgerton did. So it's like you have that there too. So, but I could see Tenora dropping here a little bit in the future.
For Napoleon, look at them. Finally throwing a winning streak together, then you lose your starting quarterback and Blake Wolf. So that hurts them quite a bit too. But
I think a team that's kind of surprising too, that was really high on the list to start the season, was Lipsick. I had really high expectations for them, and especially losing to Liberty Benton, I believe, by 3 points at the beginning of the year. And we know Liberty Benton's a really good team, and Lipsick's just kind of struggled this middle part of the year. So I feel like they're one that's really kind of surprised me to this point.
Yeah, I agree with you, Logan. I was actually just trying to look at their schedule, and boy, it's he's out there getting things back on track, back-to-back wins, and of course, Columbus Grove's, they're pretty tough, but then Bluffton and
some of those other, like Bluffton's been doing better.
Yeah,
I know we don't cover some of these teams, but Bluffton's doing well in the NWC. Allen East is doing well, and you still have teams like Crestview kind of lingering in the middle. So definitely NWC is a tough conference this year.
Yeah.
All right, let's look at the top 10 here. Coming in at number 10 is Bryan. Number 9, Wauseon. Number 8, Delta. Number 7, Columbus Grove. Number 6, Defiance. So here's this group, and what do you guys think about this?
I think you've got it. I really do think you've got that one pretty darn close.
I think it's hard, too, looking at the NWOAL teams because they're beating up on each other. But again, it's like
you look Bryan at 3 and 4. They just I don't know. That's the one that's kind of got me shook on this whole thing. I definitely think that I don't know that Edgerton's better than Bryan, but Edgerton's at 6 and 1 and Bryan's at 3 and 4. But you look at who Bryan lost to, and it's where. But like I said, Edgerton's only lost to Ayersville, who's now climbed into the top 5. So.
Yeah, for me, I'm interested to see Wauseon, Delta this week, Archibald next week. They're one of those teams that's building momentum, so they could actually be back where we actually, I think, had them originally played. In our preseason poll in the top 5. So. Coach Moore and the Indians definitely playing well right now.
And that's the thing. I know people always say, well, Tenora beat Wauseon earlier. Well, things change throughout the season. And Tenora's had some things not go in their favor, and Wauseon's had some things go in their favor. So, I think that you kind of seeing a swing in momentum out of the Wauseon Indians, and they're doing a really nice job over there. So, I could potentially see them climbing up again, maybe top 5 if they pull off a couple big wins here. So
next week would be a key game for Wauseon.
And again, look at Defiance. I think in the preseason poll, we had them way, we weren't even considering a top 10 appearance out of Defiance. And now to look at them, see number 6. So, kudos again to them and Coach Cooper. The excellent job that those players and the staff over there has done. So
I think Craig Nichols has made a huge difference.
Oh, definitely.
Defiance. That's to add a player of his caliber and that talent, that's kind of a gift from God.
What a gift. It's like, here you go. Here's a early Christmas present because, we saw, too, he can contribute on special teams, too. Yes. So, like you said, I don't know how any way else to put it. What a gift to Defiance Bulldogs. So, Let's look at the top 5 here. So we have a new team that entered the top 5, and number 5 is Ayersville. And, I mean, they've deserved it to this point, and they've shown that they can compete. So Ayersville's at number 5, Antwerp at number 4, Archbold at 3, Van Wert at number 2, and we have a new number 1 in Liberty Center. So thoughts on the top 5 here for the rankings?
Logan, I'm not roasting you, dude. You nailed that top 5. I was just looking at it. I think you got that. I think you got that perfect. I think Liberty Center definitely deserves, after the whooping they put on this weekend, and I think they deserve that number 1 spot above Van Wert, and it'd be one of those things to see those two teams play.
Oh, I would love to see a Van Wert Liberty Center matchup. So.
And again, just like last year, man, the Liberty Center, Archbold, if they played 3 times, who would win? Who would win all 3? This year, I think Liberty Center's got the edge. Liberty Center, like I said, we got to watch them firsthand. They're tough. They just look put together, and that was the first game of the season, and they looked that good. Mm-hmm. For them, the sky is the limit, and it's all about health at this point. Keeping everybody healthy, keeping everybody fresh. When you're winning big, you get to kind of set your starters. Like we talked about, Matthew Orr runs for 235 yards on 5 carries. I mean, like I said, he probably didn't run much after that. You get 235 yards, 5 carries. All right, just go ahead and have a seat.
Yeah.
I'm sure he played some defense, but yeah, I think you nailed that top 5.
And that's something too with Liberty Center, and I think you nailed it on the head again. I mean, we know their coaching staff is excellent over there, and they've got a game plan, and they're very experienced over there. They have the athletes, they have the big offensive linemen, they have the athletes out in space. They have you have Cruz and you have Orr at running back. You have Zane Zider at quarterback. I mean, what more could you ask for? I mean, this is a team. I mean, the more that you watch them, the more you see how they play, and I mean, I'm starting to think more and more potentially a state title contender. So
I think we've talked about this. The people who come out of Region 18 is probably going to be the contender for the state title. I do believe.
Absolutely.
I think they're going to be in the final 2, unless something weird happens. But Liberty Center has been efficient. They've been taking care of the ball. And, if you want to kind of model your program after a program, Liberty Center, they're doing things right over there. We got to see their weight room, and they're doing it right over there,
top to bottom, and everything.
And it's showing. It's showing on the scoreboards and the records.
It is, and I mean, Liberty Center is the place to be right now. So again, they continue to impress week after week. But again, another team, keep your eye out for Van Wert. I mean, they're still doing big things, and I think they could potentially make a run in Division 4. So let's go ahead. Well, that concludes our power rankings. Let's take a break to hear from our sponsors, and we'll be back for the next section, the hot takes. Fairchild Family Chiropractic aims to help families to get better together in the least invasive way possible. Dr. Fairchild focuses on the neck using the Blair technique and Palmer package, adjusting to correct spinal misalignments. Located in Defiance, Ohio, call Dr. Fairchild today at 419-576-5070 to schedule an appointment. Northwest Ohio Basketball hosts premier basketball tournaments for boys in grades 3 to 8 in the area. Upcoming tournaments are right around the corner. Give them a call today at 419-283-5296 or check out their website at nwoball.com. Crystal Vasquez of Amerimaid Realty is a top real estate agent in Northwest Ohio. Crystal's compassion and enthusiasm allow her to find that special property or house just for you. Located in Bryan, Ohio, give her a call today at 419-799-1243. Back on the NWO Sports Podcast, and it's, again, our favorite time of the podcast. It's the hot takes. So, again, these are sent in anonymously, and we'll go ahead and we'll discuss some of them. But the first one, just a little recap. So last week, we had a hot take of which of the 4 of us, including AJ, would win a 100-meter dash. And I said I was going to run a poll, and I ran a poll. So here are the results from the polls on Instagram and Twitter. So looking at Instagram, I was first with 57 votes, 48%. Tony was second with 32 votes, 27%. Keith was third with 20 votes, 20%, and AJ was last with 11 votes and 9%. So looking at Twitter, there are 40 total votes, and it doesn't break it down as to how many votes, just gives percentages. I finished first with 63%. AJ was second for 17%. Keith was third for 15%, and Tony was last with 5%. So what are you guys' thoughts on seeing some of these?
We were talking about it during the break. I'm telling you right now, that'd be so fun to do that, to actually, do that, like you said, as some kind of fundraiser thing. But, unfortunately, just with my schedule and AJ's schedule, we just won't be around at the time for all 4 of us to run it this year. So it would be a fun thing to do. I was joking around with with Eddie Jimenez, talked about doing it in Halloween costumes, dressing up like a hot dog like they do at the ball game, football or baseball games. I'm sorry. Be funny, but I think it would be neat what we got to do is like, who's that does that with like Frozone guy that gives everybody a head start.
That's from Atlanta.
That's
maybe we could do that with Bryce.
Yeah, Bryce could be that Frozone guy.
I tell you what, we got to figure something out. Maybe we could raise some money for a good cause because I think that would be hilarious.
Put Bryce in one of those all blue suits and just let him run. Hey, wait a minute, Bryce, you're gonna have to give us all a head start here.
That would be pretty funny. I don't know. One of these days we'll have to. I think we'll for sure have to put something together.
Yeah, Mr. Hearn giving us a good topic that basically we talked about quite a bit Friday night and after the game and all week really.
Except to give me about 3 weeks. Awesome. Give me about 3 weeks heads up so I can
start preparing a little bit.
At least stretch my legs out so I can don't pull a hammy.
Oh shoot!
But
I liked Keith's idea last week though. It's like give us we'll start at the 60 and do like 60 yards and then we'll take a break. Then we'll run the last 50.
Yes.
That'd be good to see.
Do 50 yards at a time, maybe.
Awesome.
But
yes.
So we just wanted to bring that up and give all the listeners a little update. So let's go ahead. We'll move into the rest of the hot takes. First one is Garrett Gurl from Montpelier can be a good quarterback, but he just hesitates at times. And though I haven't seen him personally play, I can say that's an issue that we tend to see with a lot of quarterbacks is they're just hesitant with it, and they only tend to look at their first read, and that's their only read. I know we've seen multiple games throughout the year where guys just at quarterback lock eyes on their first read right away, and a lot of times it gets intercepted because they don't go through their progressions and they look through everything. So what are you guys' thoughts on this one?
Me personally is like you said, Logan. We don't see Montpelier, but just this is where kind of your 7-on-7 drills during the summer practice and come into play. I mean, if you don't have 7-on-7 drills, just take 5-year buddies out. A couple of you guys play defense, a couple of you guys play offense. That way, it's not full game 11-on-11 action, but at least you can get used to just the visions and the whatnot coming at you. So you can have some off-season work, and something like this will help any quarterback out, really, not just the kids from Montpelier, but anybody. Yeah, just your off-season drills are a lot to progress into this.
Yeah, a lot of kids. We talked about this the other day with AJ that a lot of kids nowadays don't. I don't think they play outside like we did. Keith, I keep talking to Keith because every fall we were in the backyard running routes and playing ball and was playing 2-on-2. So you learned how to play quarterback because you took turns, and so you learned how to throw to the open receiver or throw him open is what I say.
Exactly.
And that's where a lot of kids, that I noticed this year with my 8th grader. But man, he's getting better and better every day. But it just takes some time to get them prepared. And as far as hesitating, if they know the route, if they know their offense and they know where the kids are going to be, and if you watch like the pros and the college guys, they practice so much together, they know where he's going to be or where that break's going to be, and that ball's out on the break.
Yep.
And so the hesitation's not there. Like, hey, I know this guy's going to be. You kind of look at the defense like, yep, where the defensive guy's going to be. When he makes that outside break, that guy's going to be there.
Exactly.
And if you hesitate, now you've given the guy a chance to recover.
Agreed. And I was just about to say, like when you're talking about that too, and good quarterbacks, they throw the ball where the receiver's going to be. Right. It's not where they're at right at the time. Like you said, if you hesitate at quarterback and you're locking eyes, that ball's picked instantly. Yep. And that hesitation is just giving that defensive back just that millisecond more just to make that break on the ball and intercept it or deflect it. So I think not just only him, but I think this is a good conversation for all quarterbacks in the area, just to also be confident in yourself too. If you're playing quarterback, you're the leader on that offense, and you got to have not a sense of cockiness, but that confidence that you're going to make that throw and you're going to complete that pass. So
summer is your best friend, I assure you. Grab your 3-4 receivers, go out to the football field, go anywhere, just throw 10-yard outs, 15-yard outs. That way you see where your receiver's breaking, what his mannerisms are. This is the best practice, really.
Then other than that, it's just a little bit of game film and watch how your defensive guys are reacting, in their films, and where you can squeeze that ball in, and you'll know if you've played quarterback enough, you'll look out there, you'll know like he's playing him inside, and my out pattern is going to be there. but I got to get it to him quick and that's what I tell my guys. It's like, listen, you got to run a good route as a receiver. You want me to throw the ball to you, you got to run a good route. If you're not open, I ain't throwing you the ball.
It is actually a two-part. I mean, you can't have a receiver that's going to run an out, then he kind of a lazy out, I guess, where he kind of has an oval to it. You need to go, break, and boom, and your quarterback's going to hit you.
And that's the thing I love about football. There's so many components to it. I mean, everyone has to be on the same page in order for a play to go. I mean, you're thinking pass plays. Your offensive line has to be blocking and holding up to give that time for the quarterback. Again, like you said, Keith, your receiver has to make those. They have to make those breaks and be on the same page with the quarterback and know their routes and know the schematics and know what to do. Whether this guy's playing press coverage or if he's playing off and playing in zone or if he's playing in man. Or I mean, there's a lot that's going through your head at whatever position. So I mean, that's something that all positions they just got to. That's why it's so important to know your playbook and to know what you're doing and not knowing what you're doing on that play, but understanding the schematics behind your offensive playbook or defensive playbook. Because like we've talked in the past too, like with your junior high kids, it's not always going to be Johnny's lining up in a 5-tech right on you on left tackle. And what are you going to do when he's lining up in a 4-eye and you got 2 Mike linebackers up in the A gaps, and then that's when stuff hits the fan. So
so I had a kid ask me today, Coach, my guy's not lined up over top of me, so who do I go get? I always just tell biggest threat. Okay, what are we doing with the ball? I can't tell you to go get him because if I'm not running that play, then that's not who you go get. So don't worry about going and getting that guy.
Yeah,
understand what you're doing, what we're trying to do with the ball, and I try to teach the kids the game. So listen, if we're trying to run here, then the guy that's going to be here is going to be your biggest threat. If we're running out there, well then this guy's not that big of a threat anymore because we're going way out there. But so it's hesitation as a quarterback. Getting back to the hot take, the hesitation as a quarterback at times it will kill you, and I think that's a little bit. I think we saw a little bit of that with Graziani last Friday night, which may have led to the Honstein pick, the pick 6. I think he, like you said, locked eyes and went right. It was right there, and Honstein just saw him go there and just tracked it and got it. And if you're going to go, you got to go right now.
Definitely.
Go ahead, Logan.
Go ahead, Keith.
Yeah, this is the kids that show up to practice, for example, Liberty Center kids, Archibald kids, the coaches have already put that in their head. You're there to practice like it's a game.
Right.
You can make the adjustments in practice. So like Tony says, if you have a question of, hey, what do I do here, coach? You know what you do when the game comes. When the game comes, the play's already over. You're going to the sidelines getting your butt reamed because during practice you didn't ask the coach, what do I do in this situation?
Right.
That's why coaches preach and preach and preach. Practice like you're going to play. Just don't practice to go through the motions and show up. You practice like it's a game.
Yeah. And I think that's something too. The really good coaches in the area, especially for high school football, are the ones that can teach the why behind everything.
Exactly.
And I think the really good players are in the area are the ones that ask questions about the why. Like, why am I blocking this person? What do I do in this situation with that? Like, it's easy to tell you to just go block that kid. Yeah. But to understand, like I said, the schematics and everything, that's the big thing. And I think those are the coaches in the area that really thrive and they really get the most out of their kids.
It's a different sport, but to me, one coach, what you played for, Logan, Coach Andy Hunter for Tenora. When Coach Hunter was coaching Tenora, if you came off, this is me watching from afar. If you watch any player come off when Andy was coaching, he would bring the player off, walk down there to the bench with you. He would turn his back to the game for a good 45 seconds and set you down and like give you the positives and Logan, what he's telling. And, so Coach Hunter would literally miss 35, 45 seconds of the actual game to talk to the kid that was coming off to explain to him, hey, here's what we expect and what to do next time. So,
yeah, I do the same thing with our kids. Is pull a kid out. If you see a kid make a mistake, pull him out. Come here. Get somebody in for him right away. Because I don't want to wait. Talking about hesitation, I don't want to wait as a coach. That's a learning moment. Yep. Something happened. It's a learning moment. I want to get him out. I want to explain to him, like, let's talk. Let's find out why did you do what you did. And let me explain to you why you shouldn't have done that if you did something wrong. And then I want him to go right back in there because I want to see if he can, if he comprehended what was said. Yep. So I try not to keep kids out of the game. And, to me, it's the whole teach a man to fish thing. if I tell you to go block that guy, then you're going to go block that guy.
Yeah.
And if he's not there, like you said earlier, if he's not there, then you're kind of in trouble. So, it's you got to teach them the why of the game and understanding the game. And sometimes, especially with the younger levels, just kids. I've been learning over the years that some of those kids aren't exposed to. We grew up watching football every weekend and all the games and all this. I mean, just watch, and kids nowadays don't do that.
Yeah. I think even just looking at this hot take, I really like this hot take.
That's awesome.
Not
really
only just from Garrett's perspective. I mean, because quarterback is a tough position.
Right.
I mean, you have to be on your A game all the time. But again, allowing us to have a really good talking point. So thanks for sending that one in. I like that one a lot.
That's perfect.
Next hot take here: the NWOAL will have 8 teams in the playoffs within 3 years. We discussed off air a little bit, and I mean, there's only 8 teams in the NWAL, so that means every single team would make the playoffs. And who wants to start with this one?
I'll start. To have all 8 teams in there, they're going to beat themselves up bad enough. They would have to. I mean, I don't know how all 8 teams could be in. I mean, you're going to have teams in there that's going to have losing records unless they literally all go 500, just win the game, lose this game, win that game, lose this game, win that game. But I just don't see how they could get all 8 teams in there.
I think too, it would be a long shot. They would have to win every single non-conference game, and then again they'd have to win probably half the conference games in order to make the playoffs. But again, once you get to conference play, they're going to beat it up, and the odds of them, all the teams winning non-conference and winning half the conference games are. You probably have a better chance of winning the lottery than every single team in your conference making the playoffs. But I mean, if you would have asked me a few years ago when there's only 8 teams, I would have said no chance at all, 0%. But now, I mean, there are 16 teams per region, so I mean, there is a chance. So, Keith, do you have any comments on this?
Yeah, I think you guys summed it up perfectly. This year of all years, I mean, if you look at the NWAL, your top 6 are actually really decent teams. Evergreen's 7th.
I think this year you got 5 to get in.
Yeah.
I mean, 5 could get in easily this year. I mean, you get 5 of them.
I was trying to look real quick as you guys were talking just to see where everybody's at.
We got Brian at 3-4, Archbold 6-1, Delta's 5-2, Evergreen unfortunately is 2-5. But then you look at Liberty Center 7-0, Patrick Henry's 4-3. Wasion back on track. They're 5-2.
Yeah, Wasion's 10th. Right now, Brian's your last. Brian is 16.
Yeah.
So
there's 6 teams.
So right there, 6 of 8 this year.
Yeah.
So
I just don't know how you get the other 2 in. You know what I mean?
It's to have 8 teams in a conference to make that's asking a lot. It really is.
All right, let's go ahead. Let's look at the next hot take here. Holgate is the best 8-man school in Northwest Ohio. Roster is stacked from top to bottom. That I would have to agree because there's only 2 8-man teams in Northwest Ohio. You only have Stryker and Holgate proved that they were the better team that day, and they put a pretty good beat into Stryker. So, again, they definitely have some good athletes. I know quarterback Xavier McCord, we talked about him time and time again. And what are your guys' thoughts on this hot take?
I agree. I mean, you got Holgate and Stryker, and then Holgate just put a whooping to Stryker this past week. So I have to agree that they're probably the best in Northwest Ohio. If not, we'll see what they can do when it comes to the playoffs. And
they came off a big win last week to Fort Wayne Crusaders, who were undefeated to that point. And even looking at some of these stats here, I have season stats for Holgate. Through 6 games, Xavier McCord at quarterback is throwing 74% completion percentage, 1,253 passing yards. He's got 14 passing touchdowns with 4 interceptions. So that's pretty good from a quarterback. You look at running back, Chris Plotz, 70 carries, 460 rushing yards, 6.57 yards a carry, and 6 rushing touchdowns. So, I mean, that's pretty quality too. And you look at some of the other players, and you got receivers like Belmares, who's got 30 receptions on the year, throws in 5 receiving touchdowns. You have Bacher, 449 receiving yards, another 7 receiving touchdowns. So, I feel like it's pretty safe to say that, they have a pretty good team. And then on defense, you have Corser. He's got 5 sacks, 10 TFLs, and interceptions. So, they have some dogs that can play on that team. So,
absolutely.
Keith, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I just don't want this to go the wrong way, I guess. I guess if you're Holgate, yeah, you clearly are. You just made the point on the field. You demolished Stryker. So this is where the whole 8-man thing comes in. This is like a whole nother discussion. But yes, to answer your question, yes, they are. But looking to the future, like you see, we talk about building programs all the time. If you're Holgate, you're dropped out of 11-man football. You dropped out of the GMC. You play 8-man football. You have, 21 kids on your roster. Hicksville has 24. What point, if there is a point, if all these younger kids coming up want to play football for Holgate and you wind up with 32 kids, do you still play 8-man football? Or I don't have the answer. Point. So if you have, say, 32 kids that want to play varsity football for Holgate, can you play 8-man football, or do you? I don't have an answer.
I was just going to ask that.
That's my question.
Is there a rule that says if you have so many athletes in your team, you have to play 11-man, or is it if you could have 50 kids on your team and play 8-man? I mean, I don't know if there's a.
No, that's a really good point.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just I'm curious myself because
I looked over and saw Keith brainstorming, so I knew he had something rolling up there.
Well, it's a good point too.
It is a very good point.
Again, like you said, Hicksville has how many? 24?
21. Holgate, Holgate has 21. Hicksville has 24.
24.
Yes.
So I mean, if you look at that, how would Hicksville do if they were playing 8-man? They're taking their lumps and they're getting beat up playing 11-man. So do they drop to 8-man and drop out of the GMC and go to 8-man, and now you got 3 teams playing? But we talked about this early on in the year that a lot of the teams out there are struggling to get numbers.
They are.
Tenora was right at the 40 number, and then kids were hurt and missing. And so Tenora was down. I think we counted down 8 players. I think at the beginning of the season because everybody was hurt and nursing injuries back from last year and all that stuff. So. You're kind of scraping. So when you go play Division 3, Division 6, or Division 5, even you're looking at like teams like Liberty Center and Arch. Those guys like Liberty Center had 60-some kids in their team, and you're playing them with 30. Yeah, that's a huge difference. I'm seeing that.
Now I'd be curious to see like what are the rules or what are the stipulations that allow you to play 8-man. I'd be curious. Maybe we could look that up for next episode.
Hopefully one of the coaches out there can send Logan an answer to that, please, because actually it's we're curious. I mean, that's
absolutely.
Very good.
I mean, that's a valid point. Yep. It's like at what point do you draw the line? Like is it up to the school that picks? I mean, obviously you can't have like 60 kids and go out for 8-man probably.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or maybe you can. I don't know.
Because like if you're a Holgate kid, say you were in 5th grade and you were in the GMC and you get demolished every week 56-0, and I ain't playing, that's no fun to me. But now say you're a sophomore and now you're playing 8-man and now you're on the other end and you're winning games 56-8. I want to go have fun and take part in this. So now you have a lot more kids going out for football, which is awesome for Holgate.
Right.
So
so if anyone listening out there or watching, go ahead and let us know. I mean, honestly, we're curious on how that's determined. So
absolutely.
Let's move on to the next point. Another good topic here. We actually had it for last week, but we saved it for this week because we were going a little long last week. But this hot take was changing divisions due to competitive balance is a great idea. And we had some discussion last week. And we almost thought, too, we were kind of talking, I mean, if there's some way that you could take like a couple years sample of a team and throw it in with some computer points and stuff like that, if you could generate some kind of, obviously it'd have to be based on objective data, to regroup you, say like, for instance, Tenora, okay, say that they lose the next couple of years and they're doing terrible, hypothetically speaking.
Right.
And they're in Division 5 right now, and you talk about their numbers, say their numbers are really low. Maybe that drops them down to D6 or D7 where they can compete and have a better chance for a title. Whereas, I mean, you look at the other end too, like Marion Local, I think they're Division 6 this year, but I mean, they're going out and smoking everyone. I mean, they're beating Division 3 teams. They beat teams like Wapakoneta. It's just crazy. But I think that would be, it's an interesting point because I think that would make your playoff systems way more competitive. I mean, I think that would be That'd be pretty exciting.
Because now it's enrollment by boys.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
So, you guys, I mean,
it's basically straight. It's not straight enrollment, but it's, I mean, it goes by the number of kids you have in your class.
Right, yes.
And if you only get 30 out of 150 to come out, that's not giving, that's the thing with Marion Local. You get, you've got 150 boys, but 101 of them play football.
Yeah.
It seems like, and Marion Local doesn't have that many, because they're Division 7, right?
Yeah.
So they probably have like 100, 110. And you look at they go out on the field, they've got 60, 70 kids. Same thing at Liberty Center. Liberty Center is a great example. They're the same division as us and as Tenora. And, they had 63 kids, 68 kids, on the roster, whatever it was. I mean, a bunch. When you start looking at that as a whole, like you were saying, Logan, a competitive balance, and kind of looking at it, and over a 3-year period, Sonora has averaged 35 kids on their team. Mm-hmm. Is that what the competitive balance? I mean, I try to look into this competitive balance thing. I looked at that, the calculations. I'm not even sure how it works. To me, it looks complicated, but everybody's like, oh yeah, it's easy, but it looked really hard to figure out how you do it. And it's like for every kid, something, you get a 0, then you get a 1, then you get a 2, I was trying to figure it out, but it was way more in depth than I wanted to try to figure out. But, do you do that? Like a team like Marion Local that has 70 kids that come out every year, do you move them up to a Division 5?
Right.
Because they have 70 kids that play football.
And they continue to make state semifinals and state championships year after year after year in the smaller division. But it's like right now, I just think too, like you guys brought up, like right now the divisions are based off enrollment of boys at the school. So it's like, is that really a good determining factor of what division you should be in? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like you said, I mean.
Yeah, there's the competitive balance is in there, at least what it looked like from what I could tell, because like each school, and I'll talk softball for a minute because, being a softball coach, I got the new divisions this year, and some of the teams moved up, some teams moved down based on competitive balance. And like I said, it's hard for me to figure out how that number came into play, but like, let's say you had 135 kids and then it gave you a competitive balance of, -5, or whatever, or +4, then you moved you up. And then sometimes it mattered, sometimes it didn't. But on a couple of those teams, and for instance, Wayne Trace girls softball team, they moved up a division this year. So they'll be up in Division 3 with us instead of Division 4. And, I don't know how it works, and I wish somebody could explain it in kind of layman's terms to me so I understood it a little bit better. But I think doing a competitive balance could be a great idea. Is it a great idea? I don't know. I don't know enough about it to understand it completely.
Like you said too, I feel like it could get to the point where it's very complicated, and it's like, where do you draw the line as far as what data you're collecting? Like you said, do you take like a 3-year sample of like how that team did the last couple of years, or do you take a 5-year? You know what I mean? Like where do you stop? Like
I don't know. Like I said, I was trying to read it, and there was something about you got like a +0, and then you had a +1. I could pull it back up on my phone. I'm sure it's still there, but I don't know how they determined, like by the number of boys you had on your team, and then something, and you had a +1, or if like I said, it was hard for me to understand. But I think competitive balance could be a good thing. I guess we'll have to. I think it's fairly new. They're doing it, like I said, at least on the girls' side. I remember seeing it in the columns where they. And actually, I could probably pull it up.
And I guess I didn't even realize they were already incorporating something like that into the current, some of the sporting events here. But I think they're talking about more or less for football going more extensive into that competitive balance.
Right. Because just kind of eyeballing, I took to me 2 of the biggest rosters in the NWAL, Archibald and Liberty Center, which are both Division 5. They appear to have at least 70 kids on their active football roster. Then you compare, just because we're familiar with Sonora, moved into Division 5 this year, looked like 38, 39 kids. So, you got those 2 Division 5 teams with 70 kids. Obviously, all of them don't play, clearly. But then you have Sonora with 38, 39, 40 or whatever it is, and you throw them in the same division just because of enrollment, like you guys are speaking, enrollment per boys per.
But I could play devil advocate here and say, okay, so Tenora and Archbold and Liberty Center are all in the same division, but maybe it goes about coaching in the program. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
I mean, like,
100%.
like look at Marion Local. Like,
Yep.
their head coach has been there for years, and he has built such a good culture there. And I mean, he doesn't even, I doubt that he even has to go out and try to recruit kids to come out. I mean, kids just want to go. And I think a lot of that, I mean, you see that in Archbold and Liberty Center, like, those are historically good programs and historically good coaches, and they continue to do a nice job year after year. And I think that allows those numbers to come out. But it's like, where do you draw the line? I think there is something going on here with there can be a little bit better realignment of divisions to allow for better competition between schools. Yep. But it's like, what is the right answer?
Yeah, I was trying to find the email where they sent me the new alignment for softball, and it shows it in there. And I was going to try to just bring that up so we could look at it. But yeah, it's you got a coach that's out there doing the right things and being successful year after year. Do you punish him for doing the right things?
Yeah, I mean, that's true too.
It's like, hey, just because I'm doing my job and getting the job done doesn't mean you punish me and move me up a division.
Like, if you go out and win a state championship, do you move up? You know what I mean? Like,
to me, I think it's got to be based on numbers, and not necessarily numbers of enrollment, because you could have 200 kids in your class, in your school, and have 30 kids playing football. And if you only put out 30 kids playing football for 3 years in a row, that's where I think the number ought to be drawn. Then if you all of a sudden you have a couple classes where you put 60 kids out, they reevaluate that at like every 3 years. Or I'm trying to remember. I can't remember when they do it for like softball. I think it's every 2 years they reevaluate your divisions. Yep. So if they did that and did it that way based on the number of kids you have playing for you versus overall enrollment in the school, just because I have 150 kids doesn't mean they're all playing football. Mm-hmm. So you're trying to make, you're Division 5 because you have 150 kids in your school, and you're playing. You don't have the talent or to pull from like those other schools do. I don't know. It could be a good thing though, if they do it right.
Yeah, I was looking for when you guys were talking, Kirtland's another one that popped into my head. They're Division 6, and they have. It's kind of like one of those clown cars. Kids just keep coming out of the car. Like, where are all these kids coming from? They, at least according to Max Preps, now sometimes that's not accurate, but according to this, they have 88.
Wow. I mean, that would have surprised me too. That's another program similar.
It's all those Max schools. I think once you hit the freshman level, once you come into the office, you get your books, you pay your fees, then you go and you get your football helmet and jersey. I think that's the way it works.
It goes right down the line. They're just handing it to you right away. So.
Get your schedule, and hey, here's your uniform and your helmet, and
there are no questions at all.
Practice starts at 7 a.m. tomorrow.
I think the competitive balance thing. From what I read, I just pulled it back up here. It talks about like Tier 1 or Tier 0, Tier 1, Tier 2, and then like each you're assigned numbers or something. And for public schools, it says determining tiers. You ask, does the student and at least one parent currently reside in your school district? If the answer is yes, you're a Tier 0. If no, then you ask them if they've been in there since 7th grade, and if they answer yes, then they're a Tier 1. And what I don't understand was what does that matter? I don't know that's what I couldn't understand. And this is what the actual title of this thing, it comes from the OHSA, says competitive balance 101. Huh. Well, maybe I need the
101A.
Maybe I need the 101A class. I still couldn't figure it out, but it was kind of hard to understand. But when it comes to football, it says any football players in grades 10 through 12 listed on any roster, including those who did not play in a regular season contest later transferred, became ineligible, plus any 9th grade student who played in the varsity regular season football contest must annually be entered in the rostering system and assigned a specific tier. So it sounds like they're trying to do kind of like I was talking about, where they're trying to find out the kids that were on rosters, if they actually played, how many kids played, that kind of thing, and they're assigning numbers to them. But I just didn't quite understand all of it.
Okay.
But get with Brayton Martin and have him
that too.
Put him have like column XYZ or something as formula that he
something has. Yeah. Well, that was a good hot take though. I mean, definitely generated some conversation.
The last two have been great. Really.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead. Let's move on to the next one. Paulding or Hicksville plays Tenora tough. No passing game at all equals loading the box. Well, for you that sent this in, we've been talking about that all year. And I mean, if you play a team that's one-dimensional, you're going to stop what they're good at. And I think that's one thing we kind of discussed earlier, that I think give Tenor a little bit more time. And I think they're going in the right direction. It's just taking a little bit of time and trusting the process. But they're moving towards developing, and they're trying their best to develop that passing game. So teams can't just put all 11 in the box and stop the run. Because, I mean, we saw that firsthand against Wayne Trace. I mean, they came out in the second half, and their linebackers were filling in the A and B gaps, and there was nowhere to go. But anyways, what do you guys have to say on this one?
We saw it against Ayersville. They had 9 in the box at one time. They had a safety deep and one guy out over the wide receiver. That was it. Everybody else was inside the tackles. It's an order that needs to develop. We've talked about it time and time again. Developing their offense, and a passing game is part of it. You have to be able to throw the ball a little bit at least to keep defenses honest. And Paulding or Hicksville plays Sonora tough. Hicksville seems like they always kind of played Sonora tough. Paulding, I don't know. I haven't seen them play, but they've been doing okay this year and putting points up. So I could see both those teams playing tough, especially if Sonora can't get the ball, in the air. Right. It makes it a little easier, or get the running backs into space, like we kind of talked earlier. You can't keep pounding the ball between the tackles if they're going to put 10 guys in there. Yep. I mean, you got to get the ball out in space. Let your running backs run. Cole Anders. We talked about a little bit Friday night, Keith, that Cole Anders had some big runs last year. Broke off some big runs in some key spots, and was key for Sonora a couple times. And then this year he's been kind of non-existent. We've tried to run a little inside reverse or something with him, and just hasn't gone anywhere. But we started out Friday night, and then they tried to get Edwards out into space, and then we kind of went away from it right away.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Cole Anders, too, you made a good point, is a weapon I'd like to see Tenor try to utilize a little bit more. I think, like you said, we saw him break off a lot of different runs and plays. He's an explosive and dynamic player, but I feel like he just hasn't had quite the opportunities as he did last year. Yeah. And when you run the same play with the same player over and over, teams kind of know, they pick up on that on the scouting report.
Right.
So, Keith, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, Cole last year, I think, had that nice run in the last probably 4 minutes versus Lipsick. And then pretty much had the same run against Antwerp, I believe, for a touchdown.
I believe so, yeah.
So, yeah. But we saw Friday, Graziani, obviously, is going to be the quarterback for the next 3 games for the Rams. Boy, oh boy, his kid's got an arm.
Yeah, he does. He does.
Can throw the ball through a brick wall. Probably one of the stronger arms since Brevin or even Landon Travis. I mean, he's throwing the ball 45, 50 yards in the air at times, and with a slight breeze. So he's got the arm. Just probably a week of practice with the ones this week, and we'll see what.
He had good poise in the pocket. I thought he did a great job in the pocket. He was getting pressured and stepped right up there. Stepped right up into the pocket a couple times and threw the ball. And again, kind of I've mentioned like Friday night, kind of Baker Mayfield-ish. He's kind of up there and he's getting scrambled, getting pulled down, turns it off. Next thing you know, he's free. He's running across and he got open and was able to get the ball off. But it's I do believe in the hot take that if Paulding and Hicksville is going to play Tenor tough if they don't establish the passing game.
All right, let's go ahead. Let's move on. We got a couple more hot takes here. If North Central had a more effective passing game, they would be a top 10 team. I think that one, yes, if they did have a passing game, we know that they love to run the rock over there. Again, like we talked about, to be a successful team, I mean, yes, you can just run the rock or you can pass the ball too. But I feel like the ones that really thrive are the ones that can mix it up and they can complement each other. I mean, say you start running the rock and then you follow it up with a play action, which you hit the big ball over the middle. And I feel like those are the teams that really thrive. So what are your guys' opinions on this one?
I don't know a lot of – I haven't watched North Central, but like you just said, Logan, it's the same thing as we just talked about with Tenora. Develop a passing game to go along with your running game, and it's just going to make your running game that much better.
And I think, too, just looking at that, we had another hot take thrown in there. North Central needs more love, and that's what someone sent in. But it's like that kind of goes back to your point, Tony. Like it's hard to get information about North Central because A, they're a new program. B, they're kind of out there. I mean, there's not as much coverage of them. And I mean, I've tried to put stuff out too. And if anyone listening, if you have any information on North Central football, feel free to send it to me because we'd love to talk about them more. But it's so hard to access. Like I tried hitting up some different social media pages of North Central, but I think too, going back to the first hot take, I think they run the ball because it's definitely, I feel like, easier, especially once you're establishing an offense for a first-time program, to just hand the ball off and run it rather than all your different routes, all your different receivers. You know what I mean? Like, as far as that, I mean, I feel like the basis of your offense, you should at least have a good run game. And if you can develop that, then your kind of pass game will follow along as well. So, Keith, do you have anything to add?
No, as far as that, you guys both nailed it on the head. Your follow up was, I think, honestly, we've been some of the biggest supporters of North Central. Honestly, I mean, we've been nothing but.
I mean, we try to talk to them.
Central.
Yeah, we try to talk about them as much as we can, but again, it's just hard to access like true stats and information like that. So. I mean, I think North Central, I definitely think they would probably have a little bit better of a year. But I mean, honestly, if you're telling me that North Central, again, first year program is 5-2, I would say I'm pretty happy. I
don't think there's any complaints whatsoever for you're 5-2 on a first year varsity program.
Yeah, definitely.
You know how many teams that have had varsity programs for 20 years that would love to be 5-2?
Yes, exactly.
Right.
So we'll go ahead. We'll move on to the last hot take here. PH defense. 3 exclamation points, as in how many will they give up this week? And I think this was from the same person that was sending us how good their defense was in weeks past. But again, they gave up quite a few points this past week to Wauseon. But man, oh man, how the tides have turned. I mean,
just all of a sudden the last 2 games, they gave up 42 and then turned around to Wauseon, gave up 38. And they had been doing so great.
Yeah.
In the loss of Columbus Grove was 7 points, and then they only gave up 7 to Swanton, 0 to Evergreen, and then all of a sudden, boom. I just gave up 42 and 38 back to back. Wow.
Yeah, I wasn't snickering. I was snickering at the comment because we talked about it. It was the same person was, the best defense in Northwest Ohio, and now all of a sudden it's like the complete. They're apparently pulling water in a strainer, just going through. But
you want to know how many points they give up? I think they're going to give up at least 30 to Liberty Center. I think Liberty Center's they've been rolling. They've scored almost 30 a game, other than the game to Seago and the game to Archbold, and they've been putting up big points. So I think they're going to give BH is probably going to give up another 30.
Yeah, I think that's just one of those things. I think PH just needs to come out and play Liberty Center tough. I mean, we know Liberty Center is a very good team. Yep. Do I think, and we'll get into it in the game predictions, but do I necessarily think PH is going to win that game? Probably not. But again, it's just a matter of their defense has been struggling here as of late. If they can come out, if they can hold, like I said, like you were saying, Liberty Center to under at least 30 points, I would say that's. I know there's no such thing as a moral victory, but I mean, in terms of getting your defense established again and continuing to produce in the weeks to come. So. Let's go ahead. Well, that concludes our hot takes. And again, continue to send those in. We appreciate it. So
that was 2 very good talking points. We could talk about those.
Easily.
Like those 2 topics forever.
For
honestly,
sure.
Those are great.
That's like we said, too. We got to try to keep the podcast under 2 hours because after 2 hours, we lose interest, and I think everyone else loses interest. It's just it's a lot of talking, especially on a late Tuesday night. Yeah. So we'll go ahead. We'll move into the Week 8 game predictions. So let's go ahead, and I'll start. Archbold 6-1 at Swanton 1-6, and I think this one Archbold's going to come out and they're going to win big. I mean, Swanton just had a pretty bad loss to Delta, who threw up 70 on them. I think Archbold comes out and hands them another loss, unfortunately. But I'm going the Blue Streaks on this one.
Yeah, this is probably be an ugly game. Taking the Streaks.
And since AJ's not here, I will announce AJ's pick and Bryce's pick. So AJ had Archbold.
I got Archbold.
And Bryce had Archbold as well. So Archbold across the board from all of us. Next game, Delta 5-2 at Wauseon 5-2. And this one, honestly, this is a pretty good game. I mean, I know it's not necessarily going to have NWAL title contention or kind of value to it. But again, it's just a good game. If you're in the area, go ahead and watch this game. Looking at this game from looking at it face value, but 2 teams 5-2. But again, it's at Wauseon. boy, did I really was back and forth between the two. I had a hard time. And, Delta has that good rushing attack. Wasion's really developed their passing game with the change at quarterback. But at the end of the day, I'm leaning a little bit more towards Wasion. But it would not surprise me or shock me any bit if Delta came out and won. But I'm going Wasion Indians on this game.
Yeah, very, very valid point, Logan. I took Wasion. Wasion appears to be playing better every week for the past 3 weeks ever since the change at quarterback. Nothing against McLeod. I mean, it's just Parsons seems to be playing a little better.
AJ had Wasion.
I had Wasion.
And Bryce had Wasion. So Wasion across the board for all of us. Next game, Liberty Center 7-0 at Patrick Henry 4-3. Again, we kind of discussed this a little bit before. I think if Patrick Henry can come out and at least make this game competitive, I think that will be good for the program at this point in the season. But again, we've seen Liberty Center play, and man, they are firing on all cylinders: offense, defense, special teams, everything. I honestly think they're a true state title contender. If they can just get out of the region, I think if they like we said before, if you get out of Division 5, Region 18, you're winning probably state in Division 6. Yeah. But I'm going Liberty Center, and I think they win by at least 3 scores.
Yeah, I think Liberty Center is just one of those teams that if you're on the other end of the spectrum, you're on the defense of Patrick Henry, you know what's coming. Can you stop it? They're not going to do anything flashy. Liberty Center is going to line up and say, stop us. And if you can, tip your hat. If not, then you're going to go home with an L. So taking the Tigers.
Tigers for me.
AJ had Liberty Center and Bryce had Liberty Center. So Liberty Center across the board. Next game is going to be our NWO Sports Game of the Week, and it's a big one. And this is probably the matchup maybe of the year, depending on how things play out. But for the champion of the Green Meadows Conference, it's Antwerp 7-0 at Ayersville 6-1. And wow, this is another game I kind of looked at, and I thought back and forth. I mean, Ayersville's playing really well right now, and Antwerp still, they have those athletes. I mean, Carson Altimus, Reed Leachtey, Landon Brewer, Sears Gale. I mean, the list goes on and on for them. But then you have Ayersville. I mean, you have Tyson Schlachter. You have Blake Hollenstein. You have Owen Berner, Brady Clark. I mean, the list goes on and on there. And this one, honestly, I like what I saw a little bit more this year because I was able to see Antwerp out of quarterback play. I know they're both very good quarterbacks, but Carson Altimus, man, does he have an arm. I mean, there was throws he was making at that Tenora game. The ball was in the air forever, and it was like almost like 40-yard passes, and he was threading the needle, especially with the receiver like Landon Brewer. I mean, you get a kid that's like 6'2"-ish, and I don't know if that's his exact height, but he's a taller wide receiver, and we saw Tenora's defensive backs struggle with that, and I think that's going to be a big problem for Ayersville coming up. So I'm going to go Antwerp this game, but I think it's close. So I'm going the Antwerp Archers.
Yeah, I think you hit every valid point, Logan. We saw them both play. Antwerp is, if they were to get behind, I think they have the offense that's not really going to flinch. They're just going to be like, hey, we're just going to load them up, saddle them up, and we're going to go get them. If it's a high-scoring game, I don't know that Ayersville can keep up with Antwerp. Like if it's going to be 45-28, for example, I would, without knowing the victor, I would say Antwerp would have the 45. They're more diversified on offense. They can hit. They got 3 or 4 receivers. They got Leasty at running back. They're just. I don't think you can key on one person and shut the Antwerp offense down. Plus, also Altimus can run. Which we didn't see much when he played Tenora. But Ayersville, you have Holstein at quarterback, Berner at running back. You got 2 decent receivers. But I just think Antwerp's offense is just a little more high-powered than Ayersville. So I took Antwerp, but I want to see where they're going to pull the media at Ayersville.
I know. There's going to be a lot of coverage at that game. So
Raphael's going to have to build a couple tents over there.
Something, because that's going to be a packed house.
It's going to be chilly too. Friday.
That's going to be a good game to be at. And,
yes, absolutely,
definitely. So,
well, you guys went all Antwerp, and I'm going against the grain here. I'm going to Ayersville. I think Ayersville. If they're looking for a game film to study, they're going to pull the Tenora Antwerp game, and they're going to look and see what Tenora did to stop Altimus from running the ball.
Yeah.
And again, I think if Ayersville can contain him from getting out and running around a lot, but I agree. Ultimus has got a cannon for an arm, and I think he's going to be hard to beat. But I think Ayersville is going to get after him a little bit, and I don't think Antwerp's going to be able to stop Ayersville's running game. That's what I think is going to be the difference. Sometimes the best offense is a good defense.
It is,
and sometimes the best offense is to keep your offense on the field and keep their offense off the field.
Yeah,
and I think that's going to. If my prediction's correct and Ayersville wins in time of possession, big time. Yeah. They keep Ayersville's offense off the field. But I think, in my heart, I think Liberty Center is going to be the only undefeated team after this week, and then we're going to see a shakeup in the GMC and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I those are all valid points, and I think one thing too is I know we kind of talked about Blake Honstein as a quarterback, but I think he's going to be a difference maker again. Like I said before, on the defensive side of things, I mean, bringing 4 picks into the game, and I mean, you need someone like that, especially with some of the receivers that Antwerp has. I mean, you have Parker Moore too, and he's another good one, and. Right. I mean, they even hit Reed Leachty on some passes too out of the backfield. So I mean, they're going to need all they can get out of their defensive backs and secondary to help stop that Antwerp passing attack. So
definitely a busy time over there at Ayersville this week, scamming for figuring everything out.
Definitely, yeah, for sure. Looking at the last pick here, Bryce had Antwerp, and so Antwerp from all of us except for Tony. So Tony might gain some points from that one if Ayersville pulls it off. So next game, Wayne Trace 2-5 at Fairview 0-7. Fairview's continued to struggle this year, and we saw Wayne Trace, and they're not a bad team, but I think I'm going to go the Raiders this one, and I think they win handedly.
I'm with you, Logan. I got Raiders.
Go Raiders.
AJ had Wayne Trace and Bryce had Wayne Trace, so Wayne Trace from all of us. Next game, Hicksville 1-6 at Edgerton 6-1. I know Hicksville's coming off a big win, but I think Edgerton's going to put a stomp into their winning parade. So I think Edgerton wins this one, and they win pretty big, especially playing at a place like Edgerton down in that little valley that's hard to win at.
Yep.
Especially Corey Everett, and he's a name we haven't heard for a while, so I think he's due for a big game. So I think Edgerton wins pretty easily.
Yeah, I'm with you. I took the Dogs.
Yeah, Bulldogs for me.
AJ had Edgerton and Bryce had Edgerton, so Edgerton across the board. Next game, Tenora 4-3 at Paulding 1-6, and we discussed it a little bit in the hot takes. I think Paulding makes it difficult for Tenora. I mean, I really do. Tenora's kind of down right now. They're without some key players, and I think at the end of the day, though, I think Tenora has just enough to pull it off, and I think they get the win and they walk out of Paulding. I'm going Tenora.
Yeah, I got you, Logan. I got the Rams too. I think talent-wise, Tenora, at least offensively, you got Dockenhouse and Edwards should be enough to carry the Rams to victory.
Yeah, and defensively, we didn't really talk about it much during the Ayersville game. I didn't even mention his name, but Javen Gaines, man, dude, he has been a beast the last 2 games since he came back. He was definitely a factor in the Ayersville game, I believe. Yep. Just unfortunately, he doesn't. He can't throw the ball and run the ball. And maybe he could. Maybe he could run the ball. I don't know. He put it back in the backfield. Maybe he could run the ball, but. He was definitely a factor. He definitely was a big component and stuff in that run for Ayersville. So, yeah, I think the Rams are going to be victorious. They're going to get things kind of back to somewhat normalcy there and trying to move forward. Those boys, like you said, Keith, getting some practice with the ones, and Tenora will be fine.
And Bryce and AJ both had Tenora, so Tenora from all of us. Next game, Salina 5-2 at Defiance 5-2. Again, this is another big game in the area, so if you're out and about, go ahead and stop by and watch this one. It's Defiance's homecoming game. Both teams are playing pretty well right now, but I like Defiance a lot more at this point. I mean, they're riding that win streak. They're starting to get some talk around the community, some hype build up. I really like their weapons on offense and defense and special teams. I'm a big Bulldogs fan right now, and I'm going Defiance. So yeah. I think it wouldn't shock me if they beat Salina pretty handily. So
I agree 100%, Logan. If you're in Defiance and you haven't seen a game in the last 5-6 years, get out there and support Coach Cooper and the Dogs.
It's a whole new face for that program right now. So
I took Defiance.
Yep, Defiance for me as well.
and Defiance from AJ and Bryce. Next game, Anthony Wayne 6-1 at Napoleon 3-4. I think this is a tough matchup. Anthony Wayne's coming off a tough loss to Perrysburg last week, which honestly I saw that too. It was the first sellout ever at Anthony Wayne, which to sell out a high school game,
people everywhere.
That is pretty impressive to actually sell out a high school football game.
That's almost impossible.
Yeah, that is pretty crazy. So I would have loved to be at that game. But anyways,
how many is that?
I actually believe it was I think somewhere around 5,500.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anthony Wayne, I think.
I want to say, because they released the number, I think it was right around there, roughly.
Wow.
So, I mean, could you imagine that many people being at one of the games we're at? I mean, that would be amazing atmosphere to play in.
This reminds me of back when you guys were making your tournament run. There was a lot of people at those games. Stands were packed.
Yeah, I think the Anthony Wayne AD had a couple of photos on their Twitter account, and there was just people everywhere.
That would be awesome to play in.
It was amazing, but
anyways, the game here, I think Napoleon's is going to have their hands full. I know it's at home, but Anthony Wayne is one heck of a team, and I think they beat Napoleon pretty easily. So I know we like to root on Napoleon, but again, I think Anthony Wayne's going to be too much for him.
Yeah, especially without Blake Wolf back there at quarterback, I think Anthony Wayne pulls away.
I agree with that.
And Bryce and AJ both had Anthony Wayne. And like we said, too, I mean, I know Andrew Williams is a good player, but you can only rely on him so much. I mean, he's a dog. But at the end of the day, you got to have all 11 guys playing their best ability to beat a very good Anthony Wayne team. So moving on to the next game, Van Wert 6-1 at Kenton 1-6. I think this one's a no-brainer. Van Wert has continued to play very well week after week, other than that one hiccup they had against Wapakoneta, which still is kind of crazy to fathom how that game ended. But I think Van Wert wins this one pretty easily. So going Van Wert.
Yep, taking the Cougars.
Yep, Cougars for me.
Van Wert also from Bryce and AJ. So Van Wert from all of us. Next game, Ottawa Glandorf 1-6 at Lima Shawnee 1-6. I thought about this one. So I picked Ottawa Glandorf last week. I'm going Ottawa Glandorf again. So you guys need a win, and not only for yourselves, but to help get some points for me too. So I'm going Ottawa Glandorf.
Shoot, that's awesome. Well, I took the Titans as well. They just seem to be just a couple plays away from actually victory.
They are. They're so close every single week. It's like I'd love to see them just get over and get a win. So,
taking OG.
I went against the grain and went Lima Shawnee. I agree with you guys. They're close and they're in there plugging away, but it was just one of those games where I think I might be able to sneak out a win here and then gain a point back after the last week. So we'll see. And
we were pretty split on this game. Bryce had Lima Shawnee as well with Tony, but AJ had OG. Next game, St. Paul 5-2 at Eden 4-3. I think Eden's still pretty young. I know they've been showing some improvement throughout the season, but I think St. Paul nips the Eden Bombers in this one. So I'm going St. Paul.
Yeah, just doing a little research on this. I think St. Paul probably has a little bit more than Eden.
St. Paul for me.
And AJ had St. Paul, but Bryce he went against the grain and had Eden. So I don't know. Bryce's strategy paid off pretty good last week, so we'll see how it does this week. Next game, Ottawa Hills 5-1 at Montpelier 2-5. I think Ottawa Hills is just going to be a little too much for Montpelier. I'd love to see Montpelier win, but Ottawa Hills has some pretty good athletes, so I'm going Ottawa Hills.
Yep, taking Ottawa Hills.
And Ottawa Hills for me.
And Ottawa Hills from Bryce and AJ. Next game, Hilltop 1-6 at North Central 5-2. And I'm actually kind of glad to see this game, just to see North Central play a team that we cover, and it's in Northwest Ohio. That sense, but I think North Central ends up winning this game, and I think they make a statement in this win. So go North Central.
Yep, right with you, North Central.
Same here.
And Bryce and AJ both had North Central. So North Central from all of us. Next game, Crestview 3-4 at Spencerville 1-6. I know Crestview's kind of been on the downslide here in the second half of the season. They started off on a hot 3-0 start. They were ranked in the top division. I'm trying to think, Division 6.
They were in top 15
in the
initial poll.
Yeah,
yes, I believe.
But since they've dropped down, but I think they bounce back and get a win this week. So I'm going Crestview.
Yeah, I took Crestview as well. They lost 4 straight, so Spencerville having an un-Spencerville-like season. But, yeah, I took Crestview.
I got Crestview.
And Bryce and AJ both had Crestview as well. Next game, Ada 2-5 at Columbus Grove 5-2. I think Columbus Grove wins this game pretty big. They're doing pretty well right now at this point, and the running back Trent Barraza is just running all over the place. So I think he has a big game, and I think Columbus Grove wins pretty easily.
Yep, Coach Schaefer will have them ready to go, taking Columbus Grove.
I'm taking Columbus Grove also.
And Bryce and AJ, Columbus Grove from them as well. So Columbus Grove across the board. Next game, Lipsick 3-4 at Delphus Jefferson 3-4. And this was another interesting game. And I had to think, just because Lipsick we thought of as being rated very high at the beginning of the season, but they've had a couple tough losses. But I think they get back on track this game, even though Delphus Jefferson has proved to be a pretty decent team. But I'm going Lipsick this one.
I took the Vikings.
Yeah, I was like you, Logan. I tossed this around a little bit, but I think Lipsick's gonna pull out a victory out of this.
And Bryce and AJ both had Lipsick. Last 11-man game, Bryan 3-4 at Evergreen 2-5. Again, Evergreen's shown some improvement this year, but again, they've gone through that gauntlet of the NWOA hell. So I think Bryan, I think they're going to come out away with a win this game, and I think they win pretty easily for the most part. So I'm going Bryan.
Taking the Golden Bears.
Yipper, Golden Bears.
And AJ and Bryce had Bryan too. So Bryan across the board. A couple 8-man games here. Holgate 5-1 at Toledo Christian 5-1. Big matchup here. After seeing what Holgate did last week and the week before against Fort Wayne Crusaders, I'm riding the Holgate train right now. I think the Holgate Tigers are coming away with a big win here. So I'm going Holgate.
I took Toledo Christian. Flip it up a bit.
I was the same as you. I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know if Holgate 2 weeks in a row, 3 weeks in a row, I guess. So I went Toledo Christian with Keith.
It's a really good game.
Better not steer me wrong, Keith.
Hey, at least I have Bryce and AJ both picked Holgate, so I got some other guys on my side. So we were pretty split on that game. Last game here for our predictions, Stryker 4-2 at Fort Wayne Crusaders 6-1. I think Fort Wayne wins this one, and just kind of after seeing what Holgate did to Stryker and how Fort Wayne has competed with Holgate as well, I think Fort Wayne beats Stryker by a few scores. So I hope Stryker proves me wrong, but I'm going Fort Wayne this game.
Yeah, I got Fort Wayne as well.
Yeah, Fort Wayne for me. If Stryker had been playing at home, maybe it influenced my vote a little bit, but I'm taking Fort Wayne.
All right, guys. Well, that concludes our Week 8 game predictions. Last section here, closing thoughts. You guys have anything going into Week 8?
It's hard to believe it's Week 8.
Yeah,
that's
so I was just talking about. I'm gonna be gone for AJ's wedding this week, and then I come back for a week, and then I'm gone for the last week 10 with Tiffany's graduation and AJ's soon-to-be wife Kayla graduates from chiropractic school at the same time. So it's kind of hard to believe. I'm like, man, I'm going to miss the last 2 games. I didn't realize it. I got to look at the schedule, and I'm like, oh, wow, I guess I'm going to miss 2 of the last 3. So, unfortunately, I'll miss the broadcast, which kind of stinks because I enjoy doing that so much. But, a little chilly up there. Keith was up there Friday night in shorts.
That's what he was saying. The weather's starting to get pretty cold.
So it'll be interesting to see what we do next week. If we go back up on top, I don't know what the weather's supposed to be like yet. I haven't looked, but it's been a great week, a great year so far, and teams it's funny how you start talking about teams of where they're at beginning of the season, and then how things have progressed to where they're at right now, and it's just it's been a blast, and it's just it's going to be neat to see how things finish up.
Yeah, it's hard to believe it's Week 8 already. Final third of the season is right here. So we've got some good matchups this week. Looking forward. I don't think there's any video because Ayersville has a pay-per-view, unfortunately, so we won't really have any video. So we'll have to tune into one of the media outlets. And
there's at least probably 2-3 radios.
Yeah, the Black Swamp, Coach Strock and Younger are over there. Garrett, of course. Garrett will be there from the Bull. Randy
and Miles
I
from
think.
WSM probably will be there too. So. Big game, so
it's neat. You guys talked about this, and I love what you guys do. Keith doing the live broadcast of the game, and Logan, you doing this for the the kids. And it's really neat that you kind of look back the times we played. We'd had stuff like this. It's kind of neat to hear your name. Or get to see TV. And I flip through the TV once in a while, and there's like games on TV that high school games are being covered. It's kind of neat, just kind of like watch. I don't watch the whole thing normally. I watch a little bit of it because I just kind of like, okay, I just want to check out, see how they're doing things, and but it's neat, and I really commend you guys for doing what you do, and I get to come on and just be a voice.
I think like back in our generation, Channel 55 always had a high school game that would cover on Friday night, then it would be on like Saturday, like at 11 o'clock. So I'd always watch the TV 55 game of the week over in Fort Wayne on Saturday morning. So
on the 4 channels that we got.
Yeah, on one of the 4 channels that we got back then, correct.
There wasn't like all these 60 different media outlets covering different things like Sonora Rims Live and NWO Sports, and, like you said, Black Swamp Podcast, and just the radio stations. Everybody does a great job covering games. It's just it's awesome that these kids are getting to getting that recognition.
And it has continued to grow. Honestly, it's awesome. So it really is.
Yeah, it seems like everybody's kind of doing their own little thing. Like
Hicksville still does. Liberty Center, Bryan. I mean, it's awesome.
I mean, Hicksville did the 8th grade game. They videotaped that and threw that on YouTube. We actually used that to review with our kids, because they had a better view than we did.
Right. Yeah.
So it was really neat to see them videotape that, put that on the YouTube. And, the kids. I mean, I know as a kid, I would have loved to be like, hey, check us out. I'm on TV, kind of thing.
I'll be up there forever. I mean, really. So.
Right. Me, I still have some game tapes from when I played in high school, but they're on the old VHS tape. I don't know if you can get them off there or not, but if I had a VHS player, maybe I could get them off there. But anyways, it's been a fun, first 7 weeks, and the last 3 here are going to determine a lot of conference championships. Ayersville and Antwerp, and Liberty Center. They're coming down the stretch, and it's going to be neat. It's going to be interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you guys made some good points there, and again, I think it's just nice to promote these athletes because again, they deserve it. And I said too, like if I was in high school at this time and we had all this coverage, I would be eating it up so much. It's just awesome to see, like, especially get their kids' name out there and recognize them for all their hard work and efforts. And I guess the only other couple closing thoughts I had were. The other one was I'm getting excited for playoff football. Ooh. Oh man, there's some good teams in the area, and I'm excited to see them make some runs. So I'm excited for that. And the last thing, like I always say, get out and support the kids. Get out, watch the football games, and show up and be loud. So that's the only closing thoughts I have. So, well, if you guys have nothing else, I'd like to thank you again for coming on.
Yep,
so
thank you.
Thanks for having me. It's always fun having you guys on. Yes. So. We'd like to thank all of our sponsors, 3 Chord, Bat & Stevens Body Shop, Tenor Rams Live, Jimenez Basketball Academy, Fairchild Family Chiropractic, NWO Basketball, and Crystal Vasquez of Amerimaid Realty. We'd also like to give a special thanks to Jeff Batt for allowing us to use his amazing new facility at Bat & Stevens Body Shop for today's podcast and all future podcasts. Stay tuned for the next NWO Sports Podcast in the near future, and thanks for watching.